we are live. While you're going, I'll be promoting it through Facebook and social media.
Nice. Hopefully some will, otherwise it'll just be you and I talking. And I'm
Yeah.
fine with
and this is being recorded. So
that. Fine.
I'll make sure you get access to recording.
Great.
All right. We got a few people here already. Mandala, hey, good morning.
Good
Chris
morning.
Dawson, good morning. More jumping in now. People are just starting to jump in. Okay, we're going to get started here in about another minute. We'll give it just a quick little minute for everybody to jump in and get comfortable. Welcome to Digital Creativity with Stephen Burns. Today is the Photoshop Users Group meeting. We've got a real special treat today. We got Chris Keeney, abstract photographer. So as I'm looking at the numbers here, they're slowly jumping up. Welcome everybody. Share where you're from and what the weather is like in your area. Chris Dawson says howdy.
Howdy.
Howdy, Chris. Is welcome. I'm going to give you guys the link to share with all of your social media as to where to come and join this wonderful presentation. I've just placed it into the chat box and I'm going to display it there for everybody's convenience. More people, numbers are jumping up, and we've got another good morning. So we got a good morning from Will AGR. Welcome. Welcome to the Photoshop Users Group. Hey, we're the largest, in case anybody does not know who we are, Chris Dawson has another comment here. Florida is freezing at 75 degrees. Are you kidding me? That's San Diego weather. San Diego, which is where Chris and I are from right now. We're the city where all the weather sucks everywhere else. Including Hawaii, by the way. We've got friends who are retiring to Hawaii. It's kind of like, why? Our weather is way better.
Then you better behave. People are going to start dropping off. Right?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Hawaii is fun, but it's like being stuck on an island your whole life. No, I don't like that. I like a little bit of diversity.
Now, we pay for that sunshine for sure.
So Chris says, I know. So Kel is the best. Yep. Oh, by the way, Chris Dawson, we don't have something that you guys have. We don't have no-see-ums.
I hate those.
And Chris should know what no-see-ums is. No-see-ums are gnats that are so tiny you can't see them, but they suck blood, and their bites are 3 times worse than a mosquito.
Yeah.
Kevin says he's from New Jersey. Welcome, Kevin. Welcome to the Photoshop Users Group meeting. Yep, numbers are jumping up here. Nice. Chris Dawson's laughing. He says, I'm learning about life down here the hard way. Oh yeah, don't worry. Those no-see-ums they love you. They bite everywhere.
He's got a good name, Chris Dawson.
Yeah, that is a cool name. That's a really cool name.
Chris in general.
Oh, politically? Oh yeah. We don't do politics on my channels. No, I want peace in life.
Yes, thank you.
He says thank you too. Good.
Yeah.
No, none of that stuff. Okay, we're going to get started here about another minute, and numbers are jumping up. Wow, I'm excited about this presentation. I've always been influenced by abstract photography since I was a student in photography. I went through the photography program through Palomar College here in San Diego, San Marcos, back in the early 80s. And one of my last classes that I took which was called, let's see if I remember what it was called, Special Projects class. It was something you had to take before you got your certificate in photography. And the instructor that I chose, the special projects, you get to choose the instructor. And if the instructor agrees to work with you, you would develop a portfolio based on the subject that you and the instructor would choose together. So I chose, at the time I was doing a lot of portraiture, especially a lot of fashion and glamour of photography. I was working a lot with some of the modeling agencies, like what's that magazine? Was it Faces of America? What was that called? You remember that way back then? Um, and actually, I was working with several modeling and advertising and acting agencies, and I was doing headshots as well. But I was highly influenced by Kean because of his outlook on photography in a very different way. It was abstract photography, learning to see abstraction. Aaron Siskin was one of the artists that he turned me on to. And there were many others. And then this was back in the day, but obviously digital didn't exist. I was working with a 4x5 camera, and the negatives that are like this big, and I was going everywhere to do abstract photography, and I loved going to like the old train and trolley museums, like dilapidated textures and tank, and on the side of trains, and learn to compose something that's compelling. So abstract photography has always been something that's kind of been kind of dear to my heart. So I saw Chris's work, and I think I saw your work on LinkedIn,
Yeah.
and I figured, you know what, he's right in our backyard. I need to bring him on, and so here he is, Chris Kenny. I'm gonna let you take it away.
All right. Thank you, Steve.
When you're ready, I'll share your screen.
All right.
So everybody, Chris Keeney.
Well, good morning, everyone, or I think it's good morning for most of everyone. I was telling Stephen before everyone joined in is that, people ask me what kind of photographer I am, and I basically say I'm a portrait photographer. Most of the photography I do is taking pictures of people. And I would say 99% of the income I get from my photography is pictures of people. So why are we talking about abstract photography? No one's paying me to take abstract photography, at least not yet. But I have a huge passion for it, and a large chunk of my work comes from abstract photography. And what is that? I guess like what Stephen was saying, it's textures and shapes and things like that. And you can go onto my website if you're bored, and you can see. I think it's this one right here, the one with the next to the woman. But at any rate, I was in college. Before I went to college, I was studying art in high school, commercial art, and I had a passion for photography, and I wanted to go to photography school, but I couldn't convince my parents to throw down the money for a photography school. They said, "Chris, nobody makes any money in photography." Well, they're partially right. So I went to school as a graphic designer, but before I did that, I had to. I worked with a TA in my high school class, and I remember I went on this trip to Alaska on a rafting trip into the Yukon, and I took this amazing photo. I thought it was amazing, of the sunset. Now the sun never really sets in the Yukon; it's always light in the summer. But I brought it to him; it was all excited, and I said, "Fred, what do you think?" He looks at it; he's like, "It's a sunset." And I was crushed. Of course, the sunset was all these stripes of colors, orange and black, and it was abstract. It didn't look like a normal sunset. He said, "Chris, that's a sunset. Anyone can take a picture of a sunset." He's like, "I want to go back out there and bring me something I can get excited about." So I was kind of like a little upset, a little deflated. So I set out to kind of prove him wrong. And so, which I did. Over the time I did, I brought him some photos, and he said, "Chris, I see you have a passion for photography. You should go to RIT." And I was looking at the Brooks Institute at the time. And at any rate, I got into RIT, which is in Rochester. And so I started as a graphic designer, and I spent 4 years getting my BFA. But while I was at RIT, I studied photography, and I would work in the darkroom on the weekends, and I went to photography lectures, and I took every elective I took was a photography elective. And I'll get to the point here about RIT is that one weekend or week, Jerry Uelsman, if you don't know who that is, you should Google him. He's an old school film photographer who, before Photoshop, was merging images in the darkroom, and very compelling images. And I remember at the time I was in awe of this guy. I'm like, how is this guy making these images? Um, so I kind of copied him. While I was there at RIT, I would go in the dark room and I would merge stuff in in the enlarger. I would sandwich negatives, and I would dodge areas, and then I would burn another negative into that area, and none of it really looked as good as Jerry's stuff. It was just kind of hack. It was, but was hooked on this kind of. It was, remind you, this is before Photoshop, so he was doing stuff, merging images and stuff in the darkroom that people now do in Photoshop. Well, around 1990, Photoshop 1.0 came out. And I was like, what is this software? And I remember scanning stuff in and using, we had a black and white camera that you could digitize yourself. So I was taking digital stills from the camera and merging them with stuff, and turning it into halftones and also stuff. And I'm like, wow, this is something for me. And so that's kind of how I got into abstract photography. I started using scans and merging them with other things. And let's see, Stephen, how do I go to my website here? How do I try and figure out?
Actually, you're sharing your entire monitor, so
Yeah,
just
yeah,
go.
yeah. Okay, so if we go into experimental, let's see if I can find it. It's a contact sheet. Okay, so well, here's an example of some stuff I did in college. This picture of this slide, it's a diptych, and I just kind of merged them, but it has kind of this sense of abstraction. That's not what I'm looking for. If I can scroll down here, I'll find it. It'll come up. Sorry for this, people. If I can't find it within a second or two, I'm going to give up and move on.
So Chris Dawson has made a comment saying that Jerry Usman was a major inspiration, and that he was also a big influence on him as well in college.
Oh, I still like his work. I have a lot of respect for him. Well, I can't find it right now, but I'm not going to get hung up on that. I'm just going to come back to this. How do I get this off, Stephen? Here we go. Maybe stop sharing. Is that what it works, or no?
Well, no, we're sharing your entire screen, so whatever you're seeing on your screen, we see.
How do I get back to okay? Well, at any rate, what I did, people, and I'll find it later, is that it was a contact sheet where I had taken a 35 millimeter camera and I had taken pictures of things, multiple exposures, and merged them in camera with film. And then I made a contact sheet in the darkroom, and each individual image wasn't that exciting. It just was just kind of like, hodgepodge. But together, as a contact sheet, it was compelling to me. So I thought, okay, well, there's something there. So, anyways, that was how I first started getting into abstract stuff. Is basically multiple exposures and being inspired by Jerry Uelsman that way. And then, obviously, I graduated with a BFA as a graphic designer. I went off to, pursue a career in graphic design. And fortunately, some of the studios that I worked for would let me to do some photography for the studio. It was basically just support stuff. Most of the stuff was hired out to professional photographers. But I did some stuff for Lego and Hewlett Packard, and so that kind of got my hopes up, at least for photography. That was. And during that time as a graphic designer, I got into Holga, taking pictures with a Holga camera. And, I I have to confess, um, when I first started using that camera, I you have to crank the dial it, and if you don't crank it all the way, you overlap the negatives. So
I I hated those cameras.
but actually, by accident, I discovered this whole new way of using it is that I could intentionally make multiple exposures in camera with 120 film. And I'm like, oh, there's something to this. So I did a whole series of stuff. I don't know if that's, let's see, let's go back to my um, website here. And let's see if I can find it under the film stuff. Yeah, here we go. Here, right here. This is an example of multiple exposures with a Holga. And basically, it's just a train going by, and I'm just taking pictures as it goes by. And so I did a whole series of stuff like this. I don't know if it's on my web. Yeah, here's another one. So you get the idea. Here's another one down here. So kind of fun. It's I don't know if it's abstract, but it's the kind of the beginning of me playing with that. Here's another one. Again, this is all done in camera, not in Photoshop. So that's what got me doing that. And actually, this image I actually sold to a Canadian company, I think it was in Ontario, that made a mural out of it for something to do with trains. So that's the first time I actually made money off of abstract photography or film photography. Okay, so moving on. As a designer, I got into iconography and branding and typography. And you're thinking, well, what does this have to do with photography? Well, not much, but I was intrigued, fascinated by type and icons and how they. I mean, you can kind of see it, on that picture in street photography where there's all these kind of, there's all sorts of type and graphics and things like that. And as a segue, I love street photography because sometimes I will, like this picture in San Francisco. Oh, it's supposed to be working. It's abstract. It's window reflections, but I love, like Stephen was saying, like how we'd go down to the train yard and find textures and things like that. I love street photography for that reason, is you just never know what you're going to happen upon. But anyways, back to type and iconography. I got really into pictographs, and I did a whole series of hand drawings. And I brought some, Stephen, let's see, how do I get back to my original? Here we go. I got into creating, well, I don't know if you can see this, but a whole book.
Hey, I'll stop sharing your screen so everybody can see your book in large view.
It's just a sketchbook. But these were things that I would just kind of put in this book. I don't know. Let me find a page that's intriguing. I mean, just weird stuff like this, just mosaic patterns. I'd find shells that I thought were interesting. Anything that was like, here's a page of
Nice,
stuff,
nice.
and I created this flip book from it. It's 100 different. Let's see. I'll just kind of flip
Yeah,
through
it's
it.
get close to the camera. Yeah, that's nice.
But anyways, these are some drawings that I've done over the time. And but anyways, it's just a way I would share. And later after that, I got into prehistoric civilizations and pictographs, specifically Inca and Maya. And I was fascinated by how the Mayas and the Incas, mostly the Mayas, told stories with pictures. Well, they weren't really pictures; they were pictographs, and they didn't really have a written language, but they had pictographs. So, what does this have to do with abstract photography? Well, a lot of the pictographs were kind of graphic and abstract. I mean, you look at them, and they're like, well, what is that? And they have lots of circles with head, kind of looks like a head, and so I was really fascinated by that. And they would have these big pillars in the middle of the ruins where they would have all these pictographs lined up, and it would tell stories about previous you know groups of Mayas and stuff like that. And so I liked it so much that my wife and I actually went to Guatemala and Mexico and saw all these places. And we hiked the Inca Trail. And so there was a period of my life where I was just hooked on iconography. And so fast forward, I eventually stopped working as a graphic designer and I told my wife, I said, I need to pursue my passion in photography. So here we go. We're coming back to photography. But that love for graphics and typography and pictographs, that was still with me. And so I would just kind of carry that on into my photography. And I don't know if you can see like on the image on my website of the street in Iceland, you can see there's pictures of road signs and things like that. They always creep in graffiti. I always had an interest in urban art. And actually, when I first started on my own, I did a lot of pro bono work, and I hooked up with a hip hop dance studio. And I met a lot of hip hop dancers and graffiti artists. So I kind of went through a whole graffiti art phase in my life. And a lot of people going, oh, graffiti art, why would, no, geez, that's awful. That's just, well, some of it isn't. But I thought to myself, graffiti or graffiti art, which is what I like to call it, it's for the public. And I found that other graffiti artists wouldn't paint over a mural or a piece of art if they had respect for it. And as soon as the artist felt that they could make something better, then they would paint over it. I enjoyed the impermanence of graffiti art, and so I did that I worked with them for a while, and I did a bunch of portraits with. If you go on my website, you can see that under the people, where you'll see pictures of dancers and in front of murals and things like that. But again, back to the whole graphics, I love photography with graphics in the background. I thought it made it dynamic and really interesting. So after that, I started posting some photos, personal photos, mostly film, to a photo sharing website called Flickr. I don't know if anyone's heard of that. This is, again, pre Instagram and Facebook and all.
Many photographers are still using it.
Oh, are they? Oh, I know every once in a while I get a, like, so-and-so is following you. I'm like, well, God, I haven't posted anything there in 20 years. But I still have content there. And actually, the reason why I bring it up is that this is kind of the segue into my next phase of my life, is where I really got into pinhole photography. And what does this have to do with abstract? It does, because a lot of the images that I created with pinhole cameras wouldn't turn out sometimes. They would be all light leaked on, and there would be the chemicals wouldn't work out sometimes when I was developing it. So you come up with this kind of abstract thing, and you're working in the dark room, and you're trying to do things, and maybe it doesn't work out. And I remember there was one time where I had taken a bunch of paper negatives For those people who don't know what that is, it's basically photographic paper that you put inside of the camera, and then you expose that like you would film. Well, so I made an exposure with the pinhole camera. I think this was a coffee can, and it was a picture of a roadside shrine in Mexico. And so it's funny because I would travel around with all these coffee cans filled with um, paper negatives, and when I'd see something, I'd pull the can out of the bag and set it down next to the whatever it is I wanted to photograph, and I
You
opened the
you
shutter.
you brought back memories because in our photo 101 class at Palomar College, we use oatmeal boxes. If
Yeah,
you
I love it. And the great thing about oatmeal and coffee cans is you get this kind of weird distortion because the area where the photographic media is placed on is concaved or the other way around. But anyways, it's curved. And so you get this distortion, which honestly I think is interesting. And so anyways, back to what I was saying. So I came back to the darkroom. Darkroom is my bathroom that my wife was nice enough to allow me to convert with some black visqueen and pins stuck to the door jamb, but it worked. I had 3 trays in there, one with developer, one with fixer, and one with stop bath. Or I think I got that right. Um, anyways, I put my hand in some developer, and then I put it on top of the unexposed paper negative, and voila, my hand, uh, uh, because the only kind of developer was on the negative. Let's see if I can, Stephen. Let's see if I can find that photo. The photo's worth 1,000 words here. Oh, we'll go under the spam can, infamous spam can. Here it is. Okay, so there's the roadside shrine. There's my palm, and I don't know. I like it. I hate it. It's just kind of strange. I like the fact that I can see the prints of my palm. I like that you can see Guadalupe from the shrine. Mostly, I just kind of like that it was a happy accident. And so pinhole photography kind of got me. You can see there's all sorts of examples of happy accidents, like this picture. This is an old Ansco 620 film camera that I had taken to the beach. And as I was making the exposure, a wave came and drowned the camera. Okay, so now the camera is saturated in salt water. Yeah.
yeah,
And so I was like, damn it. And so what I didn't realize is that when I went back to develop the roll of film, it had these saltwater stains on it, which I thought was fantastic. You know, I was like, oh wow, I wish I could do that again. I bet you if I went back, here's another one. Here's another one. Same roll of film, and you're like, Chris, everything's blurry. I can't even see the girl's face but honestly, that's part of it for me. You know, they used to call me the Buddha of blur. I don't. I guess that's a compliment. I don't know.
I thought that last image was very, very interesting.
Oh,
It exuded a lot of gothic mystery.
yeah,
It's strange.
I
And
love it. And these are just friends of the family that were playing in the sand, and to me it's a win because I thought I was a lose, and because of the salt water, but honestly I don't even know if I could recreate it. But there's all sorts of examples. Like this is an image that I made from what I call the Mexicanon. And basically the reason why it's called the Mexicanon is it's an old chili can that I had painted the inside black. So I found the chili can when I was hiking in Mexico, and I came home, I sanded in the inside, I sprayed the inside black. And so I went to the local camera store and I said, hey, Nancy, do you have any lens caps there that maybe would fit the top of this can. And sure enough, she pulls out this box, and in this box is just a pile of lens caps. And I found one old Canon lens cap that fit this chili can. So I I came up with this cockamamie idea of I'm okay. I'm going to make a whole series of photos that are the size of business cards. Now this image is the size of a business card, and what I was going to do is I was going to make a series of prints with this Mexicanon, and then stamp my name and number on the back as my business card. Well, great idea, but once I realized how difficult it was to create a series of photos with this camera, and I would, I'd make images like this, and I had a number of other ones that were nice. I mean, this is kind of obscure, but I couldn't part with them. I was like, I'm not giving this away. Forget it. So again, another foray into pinhole photography, and how that kind of the abstraction kind of permeated into that.
I
And
thought
so,
you I thought you'd like to know. Chris Dawson made a comment that getting fixer on the undeveloped paper is a good trick that he stumbled upon accidentally.
oh, I can't wait to do it again. Now the funny thing is that I have all this old film, and I had paper that was sent to me by Ilford, and because when I had written my book, let's see if I this is a short plug for my book, which I don't even know if it's still in print. Here we go. So as a segue from the Mexican into this, I had started doing uh, interviews with other pinhole photographers on my website, and I had crafted this website um, myself using Dreamweaver. And I remember it was pretty crude. And long story short, I reached out to an old colleague of mine and said, "Hey, would you mind helping me with the website?" He said, "Hey, man, you got to pay if you want to play," or something like that. I'm like, "Well, I don't know if I want to. I want to play, but I don't want to pay." And so I bought this book on Dreamweaver, and I made the website, and I started doing these interviews, and thank God I did. And to all you people out there listening, if you don't have a website and you're creative, get one. I do it now. Just log off right now and go make it right now. I won't get offended, but I'm serious. Having a website is probably one of your biggest marketing tools that you ever can have. And I say that because when I got this email from a publisher saying, "Hey, Chris, we someone sent me your name. They said you're kind of like the pioneer of pinhole home DIY pinhole photography. Would you be interested in writing a book about it?" And I'm like, "I'm a photographer. I'm not a writer." He said, "That's all right. Well, we have people to help you with that." So, anyways, long story short, I wrote the book, and it was a lot of work. And I didn't make a lot of money off of it, but it was one of those things where once I wrote one book, I wrote another, and now I'm, I guess you could say I'm an author now, and I want to write another book, but who knows when that's going to happen, if there's any money in it. But that actually leads me to my next thing about money, is that I wrote in my notes. I have some talking points here. Is like, Chris, why would anyone waste their time taking pictures of textures and weird graffiti and paint peeling off of the wall? I mean, what's the point? Who's going to buy it? Well, probably nobody. But the if you have a passion for something, regardless of what it is, it could be baking scones. I don't know. You need to exercise that passion. And for me, it was abstraction was that for me. It was always there with me, even way back when I was a graphic designer. I had taken, I'd seen things in books that were graphic, and I really enjoyed artists like Franz Klein and Motherwell and all these abstract impressionist painters. I love their work, and it's like, well, Chris, what am I looking at? I don't know, but it's intriguing, and I think personally, I feel that if you don't have a passion for whatever you're doing, it's going to show in your work. It really is. I mean, if I am not excited or dedicated to taking a good portrait of someone, it's going to show in the portrait. And people can sense that. Like when I'm doing portraiture and I get a shot in camera and I get excited, they get excited. And so I think passion is infectious. And people can sense it in you and they can sense it in your work. And so when I take abstract photos, and I'm constantly taking them, let's go back to the abstract page. It seems like we're stuck on Pinhole here. Here we go. Yeah, this weird thing. I get it. Oh, here's another example. I'm sorry if I'm jumping around, people. Honestly, I really didn't have an agenda. I figured we could just kind of roll with it here. But this picture of Matisse, this is actually a Matisse cutout. This image right here. Stephen, are people seeing this or?
They're seeing it perfectly fine.
Great. Okay, so basically what I did here is I took a piece of clear acetate and I took a Sharpie to it, and the idea was better than the execution, but I just ran with it because it took a long time, and loved Matisse at the time, and so I traced over the cutout with a Sharpie, and then I took it into the darkroom and I contact printed it on a piece of photo paper, and thus here we have a positive from a negative, and it says 1989 RIT, which is so that this is an old piece, but that's the beginning of abstraction for me. And I don't know, maybe I take this point to go through some things here on in the abstract page. This image is recent. This is in San Francisco, and it's at the Palace of Fine Arts, and basically it's a tree that is swaying in the wind, and I passed it while walking with my wife, and I thought it was a beautiful tree, and so I looked up at it, and while I was looking up, it was moving and kind of brushing itself against my face, and I'm like, whoa, this is like art. This is like live art. So I took 2 in-camera exposures, and I dragged the shutter, and I used an f-stop, probably like f9 or f22 or something pretty high, so that in camera it would blended the 2 images together. And so then I went into Lightroom, and oftentimes color images, in my opinion, they don't look so great as doubles. But when you convert them to black and white, it's like they change. And here's the thing about black and white, people. We as humans don't see in black and white, obviously, right? So already when you convert something into black and white, it's already surreal. So, part of this image, you look at it and it's like, I don't really know what to look at. I mean, there's no central focus. There's no, but there's something about it. I don't know. I like it. And so I put it up. And here's another image. This one was in Tokyo. And this is not a double exposure. This is just a straight in camera, one still. It is taken with a 35 millimeter f1.4 lens. And it's got some flowers in front of a modern sculpture. And I thought at the time, I'm like, well, these flowers kind of look like that sculpture. But they don't look like the sculpture unless they're soft. So I intentionally blurred out the flowers that were in the foreground and allowed the sculpture to kind of be in focus and the trees behind it. And I think it's intriguing, at least it is to me. And coming back to what I was saying before, people, is that oftentimes, okay, I'm going to stop and say the world is full of haters. It truly is. It's full of critics. it's that saying, everyone's a critic, right? It's true. And if you listen to all these critics bag and say, "Oh, Chris, there's noise in it," or "I don't see a central focus," or there's no balance to this. You know what? That just robs you of your passion. That just when you go to press the button on the shutter, you don't want to press it because you're like, "Oh, I'm afraid what people are going to think of me." Well, you got to let that go. Trust me, you do. And I learned that when I was working. I just had left my job at the Salk Institute, um, and it's a great place and filled with really wonderful people and brilliant, brilliant minds. And I remember when I first started working there, I was nervous about when I do a portrait of one of the scientists or one of the PIs. I was nervous if they were going to like the portrait, or if they were going to, be pleased with it, or whatever it is, or if it was something for the magazine, if it was an editorial shot. Oh, are they going to like this shot? And so you send them the gallery, and you never hear back from them, and you think, oh, they didn't like it. And well, you know what? They did like it, but they just didn't tell you they liked it. So, but the human mind is like that. You always are going to be your own worst critic. I know I'm my own worst critic because I look at some of this stuff. I'm like, Chris, this is garbage. But then you look at it a little bit more, and you're like, okay, maybe there's something to that. Here, Chris Dawson. Here you go. Here's another paint with fixer. So it's basically a pinhole negative of some trees, which I intentionally dumped upside down. And I thought, well, these trees kind of look like kind of the fixer or the developer on top. And so I've always been kind of playful that way. Like I'm always kind of experimenting. That's why this gallery is called experimental. And I remember when I did my previous website, I called it experimental, and I thought to myself, well, that's just kind of a dumb name because I guess everything can be considered experimental. You can have experimental portraits, you could have experimental whatever. So it's kind of experimental slash abstract. So here, I'll keep moving forward. Anyways, back to what I was saying about when I was at Salk. I realized after a period of time that you just got to trust yourself. You do your best, you deliver a good product, and over time you earn respect. Respect comes with time. Action speaks louder than words, and so after 2 or 3 years working there, I finally felt comfortable as a photographer, but it took some time. So I'm basically saying that to all of you. We're all going to have failures, and I've had a fair share of failures. And actually, that's probably a good segue. Is that recently I had gone to Catalina Island with some friends to camp out, and we were going to snorkel. And I love underwater photography. Let's see if I'll go back to home. And let's go into underwater. Let's see. Let's find one of their most recent ones. Here we go. I'll click on this one. This is I consider this abstract. I mean, this is feather boa kelp, which I love. Um, it to me, if you were going to say, "Hey, Chris, show me a picture of boa kelp," I probably wouldn't show them this picture. I would show them a color image, and it would have more detail and it'd have more definition and all that good stuff that people like with color imagery. But I like the balance of it, the line, the texture, and one thing I found, and I'm coming back to failures, is on this trip I took over 500 shots with a GoPro, and this is a GoPro, the Hero 11. Now, most people, when they think of a GoPro, they don't think of stills, and for rightfully so. The sensor's relatively small, But for an underwater camera, it's actually quite capable. And this new, I have to admit, I do like this new 8:7 crop format. Um, I like that you can crop it vertically, you can crop it horizontally. I just end up leaving it square like this. But anyways, back to my original point is that out of 500 and some images, I probably distilled 10 photos from from that from these sessions of snorkeling and diving, and this was one of them. Oops, let's see. Hold on, I clicked off of that. Come off of that. Let's see. This is another one. Come on. It just they're just basic stuff. Here's another one. I love giant kelp. As you can tell, I love kelp. Kelp I think it's beautiful. It is, and like when we were swimming around, it's like being in an underwater garden. Actually, that's another thing I should talk about is abstraction or even any kind of photo. You think of it as like your eye walking through a garden, and there should be spaces for your eye to rest. There should be spaces of interest that have lots of texture. There should be line. There should be darks and lights. There should be some sort of balance. Now, obviously, some of these images, they're a bit chaotic. Whereas like this, like take this image. This has more of a central focus. It has more of a balance. It's got more of what I was talking about, like a garden. Um, but I think that's important with abstract photography is that let's see, I'm going to show this old project, Stephen. Let's see if I can hold this up. It's in a frame. Um, let's see if I can. There we go. This was a project that I did, and basically, I don't know if you can see it, but they are a series of textures that I'd done with a friend even before I was in college.
Chris, show that again. I was going to enlarge your screen.
Of course. Let's see how.
There we see the bottom part with thumbnails.
Yeah. So these are all. It's hard to tell from it, but the name of the project was called Apertures, and what it was it was clip art. This is before. I think Photoshop had just come out. This is probably in the early '90s. And basically, they were textures that you would use, with print material and things like that, backgrounds. Now that the market is flooded with that kind of stuff, but back then it wasn't. So my friend and I, I'm shaking here. My friend and I had taken all the photos and scanned them high res and put them on a CD, and we had sold them through a thing. Anyways, the reason why I'm bringing it up is that textures. There's not a lot of. I mean, it's everywhere. I mean, it's hard to sell texture. It's like I don't know. So we didn't sell a lot of them, but it was a good project. And I learned a lot about what is marketable, and what isn't. And I don't think textures are marketable, but maybe if they're really good. But at the time they weren't. But I also learned that. About balance and symmetry and all these things that are so important with photography, and if you can apply it to any kind of photography, it could be landscape, it could be portraiture. You really have to have a sense of harmony, and I think it's important with abstract photography to have some sort of balance. And if you look at, let's see if I can. I love abstract impression. There's Franz Klein is probably one of my favorites, but there's. I mean, if you're into abstract photography, I would recommend going to a museum or something and kind of. I mean, look, there's no central focus in that piece. I mean, come on, that's kind of like my kelp photo, but it's interesting. It's like I remember the first time I saw Jackson Pollock. I'm like, what is everyone so? What? It's like paint dribble all over the place. Why is that? Why is it so famous for that? Well, I mean, that's arguable. I guess art is in the eye of the beholder. There was some rhyme and reason to the way he was dripping the paint on the page, and it's like anything art. Um, it, it goes back to a house will sell at the right price. It's not going to sell until it gets the right price. It's the same thing with photography. It's like there's everyone's got their own interests. So you might not like a certain image, but someone else might. So it's like that saying, there's someone for everyone, and it's
Well,
so.
I think the big part of what you're saying is that it's about finding your own voice, making your work that's unique to your personality and your personal uniquenesses, which is what separates the master abstractionists like Jackson Pollock, and that there was a reason, there was a rhyme and reason, and his work was connected directly to his character and experiences of his life.
Yeah,
Um,
I
yeah,
I agree. As a segue on that, um, so when I was at Salk, at the Salk Institute, that is, I had started experimenting with in-camera exposures. This is when the 5D, what was it, Mark II? I think the 5D Mark II was the first, or the Mark III. I don't remember. It was the first of the DSLRs that had capabilities of in-camera multiple exposure. And so originally I wanted to take some silhouettes of scientists, and so it's just a silhouette of the scientist, and then I was going to do another exposure of scientific equipment that was in the lab that had to do with their type of study. And so I did some shots like that, and I remember the creative director was intrigued by it, and Chris, we can find a use for this. I said, oh, great, great, great. So nothing really became of that, but by doing that and by experimenting with that, I started to take, as part of my job, I was tasked with taking architectural photos. Salk is designed by Louis Kahn, who, if you don't know, is a very famous architect. And so the architecture is very compelling. At least to me, it is. I'm not really into abstract architecture, but I do like the Salk Institute. It's very interesting in that sense. So anyways, what I did was I would take multiple exposures of the buildings in camera, and then in the end I would see, let's see, Stephen, maybe I can show an example here.
that'd be
Let's see.
great. On your website?
Yeah, let's see.
Okay.
So here we go. Ba, 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 ba. Okay, this is underwater. Let's get out of here. Right underwater there. Here we go, back into experimental.
So Will AG Art says, "Don't have my." Oh, I guess he's responding to somebody's request to share your website. Yeah, everybody, if you want to share your websites here, um, maybe later on I can copy and paste it and share with the group.
Yeah, it's great. I love looking at other people's work. I mean, I love books for that reason. I think um, seeing other people's work inspires us to think out of the box. I think as artists, we use crutches, certain things that we know that work, so we tend to kind of use them over and over and over. And I know I'm guilty of that. Anyways, to finish the story, this was an image that I'd taken and I put it on our dam. A dam is a digital asset, and I'm gonna reduce it here. Anyways, I put it on the dam and didn't think much of it, and I get a request from one of the admins, and she said, "Chris, one of this chief science officer is leaving, and we'd like to give him a framed picture. Could you put together a gallery of architecture and throw in some stuff that's kind of not so cliche?" So I threw in a bunch of stuff, and one of the images was that image, this image right here. I threw it in there, and some other black and white ones that I'd done. Anyways, long story short, he selected that photo and they've put it in a nice teak frame that was teak that was from the institute, and put a plaque on it, and it was presented to him at a going away party. And I thought to myself, see, Chris, someone actually does value abstract photography. They do value it. They like it. So I guess you never know. You just got to follow your heart and believe that, you know, a vision that you have could be seen by someone else, that it has value. And so yeah, I can't say that enough, because I doubt myself so much, and I write about it on my website a lot about criticism it's like the worst thing for creativity. People are just gonna, you know, try and tear you down, and in that, you know, to be fair, there's gonna be things that you do that just aren't good, and that's fine. Um, but that's I think that's all part of being an artist, is that we have to, sometimes we have to go down these roads that don't lead anywhere. And I think abstract photography is a lot about that, because there's a lot of times there are paths that we take that are dead ends. Speaking of paths, let's talk about this image. um, Actually, this is from a series of images, and there's some that are more defined than others. And if in your spare time you can go and find them, and they're in here somewhere. But I know I've put a few in here. Yeah, you can see here's another one. Um, so what this is, let me explain this. So my wife and I went to Kyoto, and one thing you'll learn about me is that I am kind of a Japanese fanboy. I do love Japanese culture, food, art, you know, so on and so forth. Uh, and this is the oh gosh, I'm trying to get the name down right. Uh, yeah, Fushimi Inari Tasha. Okay, so that is a temple in Kyoto that has a bunch of Shinto gates. I think there's like 1,000 of them, and you walk through them. So as I arrived at the temple or shrine, um, there's all these tourists there with cameras. They're everywhere. I mean, they're stop and take pictures here and there, and I mean, you've been, you know what I'm talking about. And I said, Chris, you know, you can, and I took a few photos, just kind of regular standard, you know, okay, this is telling the story. And I said, no, that's just not you, bro. You gotta kind of give it the CK kind of juice. So I again, again, back to crutches. I've done this before. It's kind of like this image, where I'm walking through the woods, and I'm walking with the camera, and and I'm intentionally dragging the shutter, and all of a sudden you come up with a painterly look, and it leaves you more with an emotion than it does with an actual image. And so arguably saying, well, it's just a blurry image, Chris, you know, who wants to look at that? But for me, I think sometimes images that an abstract photography is like that. It's supposed to invoke an emotion or a feeling. It's more like a painting than it is a photograph. And I personally am more intrigued by that than sometimes these kind of, everything is perfectly sharp and defined. I mean, there's so many pictures like that. And so I did a whole series of this. I mean, I'm talking probably 100 shots. And again, a lot of them are bad. And arguably, you might say, Chris, that's bad that I'm looking at. And that's fine. Everyone's got their opinion. That's fine. Let's see if I can find another one here. This one's a little bit more defined. You can see the stairs and everything, and this woman who's walking through the Shinto gates. But it feels alive. It feels energized, and has emotion, and like you're traveling through time. I love that. So, and I got that same kind of thing from pinhole photography, because I remember one of the interviews I did with one of the artists. She said, Chris, her website was called Slow Light, and she was a wonderful person, and her art was wonderful. And she said, Chris, when I open the shutter on a pinhole camera, the light slowly comes into the camera. And I thought to myself, what a beautiful concept, slow light. And the pinhole is so small, it's allowing light to come in slowly. And so I thought, well, wow, if I stop my camera down to f22 or 32, that's almost kind of like a pinhole, right? And so if you look a lot of my photos, you'll find a lot of images that have kind of this slow light kind of feeling to it, and I like that. It's like you're passing through time or going back in time. And anyways, enough about that. Let's talk about this image. Okay, everyone's going to get a chuckle out of this image. And I noticed that Stephen had picked this as kind of one of the lead images for the. So what this is an infrared photo that I took in Thailand of myself standing next to a river. And the actual photo is in focus, and you can actually see my face and everything. So I went into Lightroom, which I love, and I wanted to process this image, and I got a glitch. And I'm like, damn it, what is going on with Lightroom? And the glitch were all these little lines. It's like cross-hatching of lines.
Got corrupted.
I'm sorry?
It got corrupted.
Yes. And I'm like, well, what the? This is not right. Adobe, get. And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Why don't I take a screen grab of this? And sure enough, I take a screen grab of it. I closed out Lightroom. I opened it back up. I couldn't get it to do it again. And time passed, and it would happen again. And I realized that there was a workaround. You had to go into some settings, and I'd found this on the internet, and so I fixed it. But I thought to myself, well, this is unusual. It's like the software had kind of ruined my photo, but at the same time added its own like little, I don't know. Again, it's not for everybody, but I thought it was an interesting. And so moving on, let's see. I'm just gonna scroll down here. Hopefully, I'm not boring people. Okay, this is an interesting image. I'm sure everyone has a smartphone, and I did a series of images with my phone with the panoramic feature. And what I did while I was taking the panoramic, I intentionally moved the camera. Like, okay, Chris, you're supposed to, go slow. And I'm like, well, never mind all that. Let's see what happens if we intentionally like F it up. So I did a whole series, I don't know, a series of images like that. And actually, while I'm talking about series, people, all you artists out there, I would recommend that when you do a type of technique or style, do more than one. Please, I beg you, because when you do more than one, and I had this was said to me by, I remember when I was selling some of my photos to a stock agency, and the guy who was my contact at the stock agency said, Chris, when you deliver us images, can you deliver them in series? I said, what do you mean by that? He's like, okay, you take a picture of a flower, just not just one picture of that flower, take 5, right? But take different angles, take different perspectives, take different whatever. And I realized that this advice is it's money, it's gold. And I'll tell you why. And I noticed that when I started posting images to my website, that Google, for some odd reason, liked it when there were multiple images that were tied together with the same effect or concept. And it helps add dimension and weight to whatever type of technique that you're trying to do. So I did that. This image, there's some more, and here's another one. Again, a series. Again, this is done with an iPhone. So I remember there was a website years ago before Instagram. It was called Best Camera. Some of you might have remembered it. And the only way you could upload images to the website was from your phone. And the idea behind the website was that the best camera is the one you have with you. And I remember, God, that's brilliant. It's so true. How many places have you been where you go, oh, that would make such a great picture. I wish I had my camera with me. And so now we have our phones with us. They're with us all the time. And there's photos on my website that I've taken with my phone that are fine. They're not great. It's not like you're going to, make, posters out of them, but it's an image. So again, series, and it doesn't matter. Like I was saying, I used a GoPro. I've taken pictures with a spam cam. It doesn't really matter if you create a great image or a compelling image with it. It doesn't really matter how many pixels it is. It really doesn't. And I remember there was this woman when I was in college. She was doing her thesis, her photography thesis, and she was doing it with a Bazooka Joe camera. Okay, and her images were so much more compelling and interesting than this guy that was using a Hasselblad. His photos were good. I mean, they were nice and sharp, and they had great definition and and balance and all that stuff. But they lacked the sense of, oh, I don't know. I hate to use the word passion, but it's true. You could tell that she truly worked hard to get the best from this little tiny it's, I don't know if you remember Bazooka Gum, and like they would come with a comic, and if you saved enough of these comics and you turned them in, you could get some sort of prize or whatever. But so she got this camera from chewing gum. So it's it's kind of like, it's not all about the camera. Sometimes it's more about what you do with it. And so um, I think there's a lot to be learned about that. But at any rate, am I rambling, Stephen?
It's your job to ramble.
I hope to God I'm not boring people. Um,
Well, actually, what you got about 5 more minutes, and we'll take a 15-minute break. How does that sound?
okay. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about multiple exposures. I love multiple exposures. There was a time when I was on Flickr where we had this group. It was called the collaboration group, and a person would shoot a roll of film with the intention of sending it to another person, and they would in the mail. I would mail this film to someone else. This is, by the way, this image is not that from that collab. And the other person would get the film in the mail, and they would go out and they'd take pictures on top of that roll. And then depending on how many people were part of the collab, they would just move on. And then they would send it back to the original person. That person would process the images, and voila. I wonder if I do have an example of it. I won't go looking for it. Maybe I'll save that for later. But there's a whole series of multiple exposures I did when I was in Iceland. Here's another one. And I think you can do some interesting things with in-camera multiple exposures. Now, I'm bringing this stuff up because I think this is abstract. I really do. This is, people look at it, I'm like, Chris, what am I looking at here? Well, you're just looking at an abstract image. Okay, I'm looking at a church, but that's abstract. It's not like, but my suggestion there is that you find things that are graphic, like this image. There's this, graphic thing over here that's Nordic writing, and then this car. And so it makes for good multiple exposures when you can have negative space that can be filled in with the other exposure. And I'll stop by talking about this image because this was an image that Stephen had selected as well. This is in Canyonlands, actually, no, sorry, Arches National Park. That's why it's good we have captions. And basically, it's 3 exposures of this trunk that was on the ground, and the trunk had these striations in it, and striations. Well, it's like wood grain, I guess, if you for better definition. And so I took a picture, and then I moved the camera, rotated it like a clock, and I took another picture, and I rotated it like a clock again, and I took another picture. So these lines kind of crossed over onto each other. And so in the end, in Lightroom, which again I love, I took the color image into Lightroom and cranked up the blacks and increased the contrast, and out comes this abstract image. And I might have taken some of the extra noise, not noise, but detail out of it just to simplify it. On most part, I don't really use Photoshop for building images. I'd rather do that in camera. Like all this stuff here is all done in camera. But Stephen, before we break, is there anything else that I should talk about before we move on, or?
Oh no! So right now I've got a comment from Aaron Houston. He says he likes the image. Um,
Thank you.
we've got all people are really liking it.
Well,
Um, let's see, Chris Dawson. We have a lot of common. We have a lot in common, Chris, in terms of vision, content, technique, and the love of Japan. Glad I tuned in today. This has been encouraging, and Chris Dawson, thank you for joining us.
yeah, thank you. Yeah.
And we do this every month. The Photoshop Users Group. Now, what I'm going to do is I am going to let me go get the link to the Photoshop Users Group. I'm going to give if you're not on our mailing list, if you received today's email via your email or today's presentation via your email, you're already on the mailing list.
Awesome.
If you found out through Facebook, then I'm putting the mailing list right now. It's free to join. You become a member of the Photoshop Users Group. We have these presentations every month, live presentations with true to life artists. And Chris is one of them. There is the link. Just go on there, give me your name, your email address. You're good to go, and you will be notified every month about our meetings. So we've got meetings coming up on digital painting. We've got meetings coming up on compositing, a light room, a lot of stuff. So today we're focusing on a philosophy called abstraction, especially for photography, which is Chris has been so gracious enough to come and share his thought processes. So let's do this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stop sharing Chris's screen, and I'm going to share my screen because we're going to do a 15-minute break for commercial things. Stop. There we go.
Awesome.
Hate this sound on here, but I'm gonna put the 15-minute timer up here like so. Push it back to 15. We'll get started. There's a snack break, bathroom break, all that stuff. Gives Chris time to go get some of his framed images that he might like to show in the second half.
Yeah.
Get those organized, and I will mute my mic temporarily while we're on break. And thank you everyone for coming back. Good attendance today too. So welcome everybody. So yeah, I got a great attendance today. So but they're not all showing up on this thing. It's a bunch more. They're not all showing up. Uh, but okay, let's go ahead and get started. 15-minute break, and we'll be back. It is that time. We are back. All right. The second half of abstract photography here at the Photoshop Users Group with Chris Keeney. So far, we're loving it. A lot of great responses here. All
Uh,
right, let's see. Let's see. I want to see if there's any little comments here. I see something from Son of Houston. The smiley photo. I'm your Huckleberry was taken at the Motor Transport Museum. Okay, I see. I guess he's sharing photos with other people. And they're sharing photos with one another. Okay, cool. Um, and if anybody wants to post their website up here, I think I've got one from Houston, and I've got one from the military photographer. We'll share that at the end of the broadcast. So if anybody want to post their website so we can share it, look at your work, we'd love to see it. Go ahead and put it into the chat box now, in the Twitch chat box, and share your work. Welcome, Chris Dawson is here. Cynthia Anna, welcome. David Glenn, welcome. Essence, welcome. Um, Kafka Pie, welcome. Kevin Fanning, welcome. McNonsense, welcome. Good to see you. Mandala, welcome. Son of Houston, Willagart, I guess. Okay. Or is it Willig Art? One of the two. I'll probably kill that one. And then many others here, but they're not showing up on my little list here. So okay, so Chris, it's back to you.
well, thank you everyone for tuning in. Hopefully, I think this section, Stephen, I'm gonna dive into like getting into the software a little bit. I know
Okay.
I pulled up a few images, and I had made some talking points here, and I kind of reviewed them. I'm doing all right. One of my goals is not to waste people's time and to give them something they can walk away with and actually use. And one of those things that I realized is that when I started posting photos to Flickr and Instagram, I soon realized that black and white images weren't getting the kind of response or likes or whatever that color images were. And so I thought, well, why is that? I think for me, at least the way I could see it is that maybe color is the way we see the world around us, and black and white is a little bit more alien. But I like black and white, so I'm going to dive back in to let's see, how do I share is my screen being shared here?
Already being shared. I took control of it.
So one of the things when I'm processing, and I'm in Photoshop right now, and this is if you were in the part of the first half, this is one of the photos that I took when we were in Catalina. And one of the things I do when I'm working on a black and white image is that I will invert it. And let's see if I can. And so when an image is inverted, it gives us an idea of what the balance of light to dark is. And I think that's very important because I'll invert images that don't have a good balance, like the negative isn't balancing the positive and so on and so forth. So this image, when I invert it, it looks okay. And that brings me back to a Japanese it's like a principle of design called notan. I'm going to hold this. I want to see, Stephen, if I'm going to go back to the other. I got to figure out how to do that. And I don't know if can you see this book on this.
Oh, go on a second. Hold on a second. Let me enlarge your screen. There we go. Now
Yeah. Okay, hold on. Let me do that. Let's see if how do I get.
You're good. I got you.
Okay, so notan is the principle of light and dark, and for me at least, when dealing with abstract stuff, when you look at an image, it doesn't matter if it's black and white or not, but in black and white, it makes more sense. It's distilling the image down to its kind of rudimentary basics, and notan is about black and white. And so if you were to distill an image down and take all the grayscale out and all the detail, and just get it to where it's bones. It's like skeleton of the image. And let's go back and go back to the other image. Let's see, get back to Photoshop. So these are the bones of the image. You have the blade of kelp, this little ballast things on the bottom right, and then you have the negative space, which is I'm going to invert it again. Let's see, here we go. The negative space is now positive. Now it's white. So how does that balance with the positive, right? And vice versa, like when you bring it back. So I think when you get an image that it's balanced, it doesn't matter if it's color or not. That I think is important. It shows, it gives a sense of balance, harmony. And the other thing I think also
And
is,
Chris, I have a question for you.
yes,
When you said you were inverting, were you in Photoshop?
I'm in Photoshop.
Okay, I'm not seeing Photoshop.
Oh,
So
okay.
when you shared your screen, I asked you to share your entire screen.
Okay, hold on. My bad.
Let me remove your screen and go on and stop sharing and then reshare your screen.
Yeah, let me get
And
back.
then make sure that you choose entire screen. It'll tell you.
Let's see. I got, hold on here. I'm all thumbs here.
And we were seeing your website fine before, but I think what was going on is you were sharing your website. So
Okay, so hold on. Let's see if I can figure this out.
just go to StreamYard, go to the back to the monitor symbol, and then share screen again.
Stop sharing.
Good, and reshare.
Okay, so how do I do that? StreamYard. Bear with me, people.
Hit the monitor symbol again.
Okay, monitor symbol. Got it.
Yeah. Now look at the very top. You'll see option.
Okay. Select
Entire
tab.
screen.
Okay, window, entire screen. Here we go. Let's see. Open systems. Oh, hold on a second. I'm sorry. Thank you for telling me that. I have to go into Photoshop. Here we go. Photoshop. Let's do it.
Yeah, you want to share your entire screen, not application. Make this very clear. Don't share application. Just
don't share
screen.
application. Okay. Oh, hold on. Let's see if I can.
It says it right up there when you says share your screen. Hit entire screen. Show your monitor.
I see entire screen, and then it says share screen.
And click OK.
Okay. Open. Oh, it says I need to open system settings. Sorry, people.
Yeah. So you have a Mac.
Yeah, it says I need to Photoshop.
Right.
Oh gosh, I just.
See, all the Macs have this problem where you have to tell it to share whatever it is you want it to share. So give it preferences. So
hold on, let's see. So I might have to quit Photoshop in order to do this.
Yeah, go on and do that, and then
and I might have to find these images. I apologize. Let's see. Okay, let's see if that works.
Now, if you share your entire screen, all you're doing is telling Mac to allow StreamYard to share. That's all you need to do.
Okay, so I'm going to try that again.
Okay.
Let's see. Sorry, people. We're having technical difficulties here. Let's see. So I go up to entire screen.
All right.
Share monitor. Share your screen. Allow recordings. Okay. Okay.
All right. Let's see what happens.
All right. Well, I might give up in a minute. But let's see. Chrome tab. Select tab to share window. Well, let's see. It's only allowing me to share my website. Let's see. So sorry.
Yeah. So it's inside your Mac preferences.
Yeah, let's go. Let's see. Mac preferences. System.
I have to tell it to allow StreamYard to share.
Oh, okay. Let's see here.
That's a unique Mac thing.
I guess.
You don't do that on Windows. Windows just does it.
Okay, let's see. Video file, share screen. Okay, entire screen. Let's try that again. Open system settings. Okay, now I got to go into privacy. Let's see. StreamYard. Okay, hold on. That's a document. see, stream. Is it an application, StreamYard, or?
Well, StreamYard is using your browser. That's all it's doing.
Oh,
So
okay. So I have to allow it to use Chrome.
the
Is that?
browser, yeah, Chrome.
Okay, hold on. Here we go. People are like, come on, Chris, get it together here.
Yeah, these are the things that when people want to buy a Mac and they think it's easy, well, Mac has got these little preferences issues now that the user need to be aware of.
I guess
And,
so. Stephen, I'm gonna give this another few seconds because I don't want to lose people's attention.
you're okay. Just go on and be patient.
Let's see. Okay, Chrome. Here we go. Allow.
Allow. There we go. All right. Now share. Oh, we lost. Okay, we lost Chris. Chris will be back. Chris will be back. In that case, I'll share me. Okay, so Chris, well, I guess in sharing his browser, he got he's going to have to reboot and come back again. So far, up there he is. He just came back.
It made me quit.
Yeah, there you go. I got you back.
Okay, let's try again, people. All right, let's try share screen, entire screen. There we go. There we go. Share. Okay.
There it is. Yes, there it is. Now, next time, remember this.
Yeah. Okay.
And that's standard with all Macs.
Okay. All right. Can you see this?
I'm going to stop adding me, and I'm going to add you. Now you're there. Gotcha.
All right. Can you see?
Yep, I see everything.
Okay. Perfect. Okay. So I'm sorry, people. That was painful for me and you. I appreciate your patience. So we're looking at some kelp. I don't know if this is what I was trying to say before. And when I invert it, and thank you, Stephen, for letting me know that people weren't seeing it. You see the negative, and now you see the positive. And what I was saying before is that I think it's important to have this balance of light and dark. It doesn't matter if it's a color image or black and white, but to have this balance, I think the eye loves balance. Like the eye loves contrast. It loves detail. So I personally feel that an image is going to be way stronger if you have some sort of harmony and balance in it. And this image, in my opinion, does. And so anyways, I wanted to point that out. Let's see, don't save. Here's another one. So I'm going to invert this one. So you can see the black is more black than there's more white than black. So this is a little bit more on the black side than it's lacking highlights rather than shadows. So this image is a little bit off balance, but still good. Okay, so here's, oops. Oh, that image I wanted to share. I closed it. Oh, we can use this one. Here's another image. I think this is an abstract self-portrait. But I think when you invert it, it has a sense of balance and positive and negatives. So, and I learned this when I was when I would be selecting negatives to print in the darkroom. I found that a negative that had really good dynamic range was always a stronger image than an image that was flat, had more grayscale, lacked highlights, lacked shadows. And so I think, and this is just my opinion about this. I think it's important. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is certain processes that I do when I play around with images. In the past, I had worked for a company that had made lenses for glasses, and so they had sent me a number of just random lenses for packaging that I was working on as a graphic designer. And so I started, well, I wonder how this lens would look like if I put it in front of the camera. So I did a whole series where I was kind of putting the lens in front of the camera and distorting the image. And so kind of that's where this comes from. This is actually, you can see at the top corner, this is an old piece of film that I put in front of the lens. So there's always, there's always different ways that you can affect the images through your camera. So like if you have a point and shoot, or even with your camera phone, or you can always shoot through things. And let's see, there's another one that try and bring this up. Oh, maybe I lost it and I quit it. Nope, we've seen that. See if I can find it. We're having more difficulties on this. See if I can find it in this collection here. Here it is. So this is kind of a funny image. So this is my father-in-law who's passed away, but this, I was just playing around where I actually just held up a glass, like a water glass. And this is an old, I think, power shot point and shoot, but I'd shot through the glass and it distorted his head and the light around his head. And I thought, well, that's kind of interesting. So I guess what I'm saying is that sometimes you can find things when you're out and about that could be, a piece of glass, or a piece of a can, or a bottle. I've shot through bottles. See if I can find. I've done all sorts of things with that. So there's always different ways to affect the image, and which leads me to another thing. I got into, now I don't know if my daughter's online. She said she was going to join. Let's see if I can find a picture of her shot in this effect. But this is an effect. Well, here, I'll just use this one. So this is called TTV. Now, this is actually not a very good example. Let's see if I can find a better one. Bear with me here. Stephen, I had these all queued up before. Oh, here it is. So this is my daughter, Nicole. And what it is it's an old Kodak's Duoflex, and you're shooting through the viewfinder of it. And this kind of goes back to what I was saying. You can add abstraction to a regular camera just by using some sort of filter. And, I'm not talking a digital filter, but more as an optical filter. And this one, you're actually photographing the ground glass of the TTV, which is through the viewfinder. And so I did this for a while. Now, again, this is maybe less abstract than the other stuff that I'm sharing, but there's other ways. Like here's another image that's more abstract. Same thing. It's a lily pond, and you're shooting through the lens of it. So there's all different ways. I'll show another shot. So you can see the ground glass. So another I don't know if there's any people that are into drones, but there are some automated features in the drone where you can have it create a three-dimensional image with the drone, and then you can go into the software and you can play around with it by inverting it and turning it into a sphere. But there's all sorts of interesting. This is just one example. See, there's that. It's kind of interesting. But anyways, let me come back to what I was saying before. I'm going to go back to the website here for a second. Or actually, no, I'm going to go back into Lightroom because there was something. Does anyone use Lightroom? Do you, Stephen, do you use Lightroom?
Oh yeah, everybody uses Lightroom. Trust me, everybody uses Lightroom.
Okay, great. Now,
that's a simple question.
What I find with Lightroom is I love using the like, for example, here. Can everyone see that? Like the kelp?
Yeah, the kelp. Yes.
Yeah. So what I do is I'll take this image and I'll create a virtual copy, and you just go and create virtual copy like that, which I've already done. And then I'll go into the virtual copy, and that's when I start messing around with the settings. And if you go in here, you can see what I've done. Look at my blacks. I mean, I brought the blacks all the way down. Here, I'll just toggle between that. I'm pulling the highlights back. I mean, some of these settings, I would never do this with a color image. I obviously taking all the saturation out. I'm pushing up the clarity because the GoPro doesn't have that great that great clarity. I'm increasing, I'm filling in the shadows. I mean, like, or actually opening them up. You can see if you see, I'm getting a little bit more there. And so this is the beginning. This is where I do most of my heavy lifting for adjusting an image. And so what I'll do is I'll play around with it in Lightroom, and look at this. I mean, my exposure is almost at two stops over, or a stop and a half. That's a lot. And so you're getting some grain. I'll zoom in on it, some grain. And there's another thing I don't know if you people have worked with this before, but I find it to be invaluable. And it's noise reduction. They have this feature called denoise. Now, some people might think this is cheating. I don't. I think it's you're just using AI or the technology to help you to reduce noise. Because really, when I crank this thing up to 100 to a stop and a half over, you're getting a lot of noise. So I find that by denoising it, it smooths out the noise, it gets rid of it, and I tell you, for black and white, you can get away with it. Color, it's debatable, but I love that denoise. And I've used that similar things in Photoshop has a similar feature where you can actually do that. But I think Lightroom, when you're actually working with the raw file, it's way better. Now I'm hoping everyone shoots raw, because that's the other thing I was going to talk about. When you when in the camera settings on my R5 and on my 5D, even on some of my pocket cameras like RX100 or any of these 1-inch sensors cameras, you always want to shoot at the highest resolution. Please tell me you shoot at the highest resolution. And people say, Chris, that's just taking up more hard drive space and more this and that. Well, I'll tell you, there's been so many times where I've wished that I've had more information, because a lot of times you're not going to shoot something and nail the exposure. I mean, this is, I'm probably not telling people anything new here, but it's so true. And when it comes to abstract photography, I tend to push things quite a bit, and I do that because I want to go back to kind of what we were saying about the balance of the image. You're going to be pushing your shadows. You're trying to pull your highlights down, and that's another thing. Look at my highlights here; they're like all the way down. I mean, and the other thing I do sometimes, let's see if I can find, and this I find to be invaluable. Let's see if I can find an image where I've let's see. These aren't the best photos, but let's see if I can.
And that's one of the hardest things for a traditional photographer to understand in terms of abstraction, and that the rules for creating abstraction are exactly the same as the rules of photography composition in overall.
Absolutely.
Repetition, leading lines, root words, all of that.
I'm trying to find, Stephen, I use a lot of gradient masks. I'm just trying to find an image. Okay, here. So you can see I've used this gradient mask on this image, and what I've done is I've gone into this gradient mask and I've dialed that side of the image down. But on some images, I'll go in and I'll use the radial. Maybe there's an area here where I want to like take this area down, and I'll dial that down so it's darker. And I try not to go crazy with that, because the more you work with the image, sometimes I think it starts to look worked. And we've all seen that, where you've seen some photographers shot and they've added all this saturation and all this contrast, and it just looks fake. And so I try to use it gingerly, but I really love using the layer masks, and especially like if like here, let's go to a different image. Like, okay, so let's do this image. It's not a good image, but I'm just going to play with it here for a second here. So like, let's say I want to take this stuff down on the top. I just like that, and now you're bringing out some detail in that you can see up here in your highlight. And this space right here, when I always look at that in the highlights, I'm like, oh wow, there's a gap. So you're gonna want to pull your whites over. Yeah, oh, too much, Chris. See, if you clip it, then it's bad. Now, mind you, this is not a good image to work with, but you can. You're now. I don't know. People always used to say to me, the histogram is your friend. It really is, because so much can be learned by the histogram. Like right here, you can see that my shadows are being clipped. So I'm going to try and come back and resurrect a little bit of that. So I'll gradient that like that, and I'll pull up the highlights or the shadows, filament. Now you don't want to go too much because now we're up about a stop. And if you zoom in, you're probably going to get some noise in there because we're up at ISO 340. And again, this is a GoPro, so you don't have a lot of. Yeah, it's still okay. It's still okay, but you're going to get some noise. And overall exposure is a little weak, so I'm going to pull that up a little bit. See, now the highlights on the top are starting to get blown out, so I'm going to go back into that, and I'm going to pull that back down. See that, and you can take the highlights and bring the highlights down. So again, this isn't the best photo to work with, but sometimes you can resurrect images that weren't nailed in camera. And back to my initial comment about resolution, because the more resolution, the more pixels you have to play with, the better. And I remember before I started working with Photoshop, before I started working in Lightroom, I would scan stuff in, but I would scan the negative in at way over Res 12, like 2000, like Res 12 is what, 1200 DPI. So I would scan it at 2500. And so then I would go and I'd work the image, and then I would downsample it. And every time you downsample an image, the pixels get closer. So it's almost like the histogram gets tighter, but you need resolution to do that. So again, I can't stress this enough. If you have a camera that has a lot of megapixels, take advantage of it. Cards are cheap. I mean, you can get 256 gigabyte cards for pennies nowadays. So I would recommend that a lot. So let's see. What else am I talking about? The other thing I try not to do is force an image. If I find, now let's see, Stephen, I'm going to go back. I'm going to quit out of Lightroom. I'm going to go back to my website, and I'm going to talk about an image. Can you see that on my website again? Or is that being shared? Hello? Am I still here? Or did I lose people? Uh-oh. Uh-oh. That's not good. Stephen?
I'm here.
Okay, I couldn't hear anybody, so I was like, oh, maybe I lost them. Maybe I'm rambling too much. People are.
No, you're fine. Just keep going.
Okay, so what I was going to say is try not. What I find, and I'm going to go into an image that I worked on quite a bit, and basically had to tell myself to stop. It's this image. This image, I spent a lot of time working in Lightroom, and really, I think this image would be better if it was seen large, because in the details, you see other details. And what I found myself doing was I would export out of Lightroom into Photoshop. I'd open it up, and the histogram it looked awful. And so I'd re-export the image and open it up in Photoshop. And Stephen, this went on for, oh God, it went on for a while until I said, Chris, you got to stop. And I think at one point you just got to say, okay, that's good enough. And there's so many images like that. And especially when you're dealing with color, we tend to kind of push things and second guess ourselves. And at one point you just have to say, and if you have someone that you can ask, a colleague or someone, I think it always helps to get an opinion of someone else, especially when I used to do this when I worked on campus. When it came to retouching people's faces, because you get to a point where, like, oh gosh, did I retouch too much, or did I retouch too little? And so there's that point of like, when is it good enough? And I think it really is just experience. And the other thing I find also that helps, especially with abstract or just any kind of photo, is printing it out. When you print something out, you realize uh, that it lacks contrast, it lacks clarity, it lacks, and maybe it's too muddy. So printing things out I found is very helpful. I'll process an image and then go to print it out. I'm like, wow, that needs contrast. So anyways, don't overwork images if you can avoid it. I'm kind of jump around here. I'm going to talk about a process that I've kind of been in lately. It's maybe not a process; it's more of a state of mind. And I remember I was talking to my daughter about this, and it's kind of a Buddhist principle. It's about being present. And what does this have to do with abstract photography? Well, I find that a lot of times when we're out and about, walking around, taking pictures and stuff, we're distracted by things, and we're not really in the present moment, and we're looking for something to photograph. And I had a close friend of mine say to me, he said, Chris, I don't go looking for pictures, I let them find me. And I said, oh, Teresa, well, that's great. What does that mean? And I think what she meant by that is that when you don't go looking for things, just when you're walking around or when you're out and about, um, you'll something will catch your eye, and you go, ooh, that's interesting. And then you put your camera up to your eye, and you take a look at it, and maybe it's not there. But I find that you need to get in, I call it flow, creative flow. And I know when I've had it, like I know, like when I'm shooting an event, it could be a wedding, it could be a whatever. I when I get into the flow, I all the auxiliary noise goes away. You feel this sense of presence and peacefulness. I don't know how to explain it, but I've seen things that I normally probably wouldn't have seen if I hadn't been present. And the other day I was out surfing, and I was in the water, and it was quiet because I'm wearing earplugs, and I could see the water kind of undulating on the surface, and the light was reflecting off of the water. And I'm like, God, I wish I had my camera here, because that's just beautiful. And I think I attribute that to being present. Your mind is there. Anyways, maybe I'm beating a dead horse there, but I found that it's very helpful when I'm traveling. And the other thing is, don't let don't let the photography steal the moment from you. And my wife would be shaking her head right now, because so many times, and my daughter's listening, she'll know what I'm saying at this, is that when you're with someone, loved one or husband or wife or whatever, and you stop, you see something beautiful, sometimes it's best just to kind of let it be, instead of trying to capture it. Because I would say 9 out of 10 times when I try to capture it, I don't. It's not there. And so I don't know. Don't let the camera take you away from the present moment.
Well, that's because you're with your wife. If you weren't with your wife, you might capture it.
That's true. And I hate to say it, but I'm with my wife quite a bit when we travel. There's very seldom times where I'm alone, and when I'm alone, I don't worry about that. But I have to be. And the other thing is that um, don't worry about what I touched on this before. Don't worry about what other people think. I'll see if I can find the photo that I'm talking about, because when I was in Japan, I was taking a picture of this. Let's see if I can find this, Stephen. If I can't, I'll just tell the story. I can't find it right now, but so I saw this Japanese writing on this rock that had all these lichens on it, and now I feel like I need to find the image. And so I had a 35, a 16 to 35 lens. Oh, here it is. Okay, see, persistence pays. And the shrine, the Kumano Nachi Tasha, is actually a very famous shrine in Japan, and it's part of the Kumanokoto hiking route. And the building is old; it dates back, oh gosh, way back. And so I see this it's like a monolith rock with these Japanese carvings on it, and with all these lichens. And I'm like, oh wow, that's beautiful. How the Japanese writing kind of mixes with the lichens, and how it kind of blends with the tree in the background and the roof line of the shrine. And so here I am, contorted in this kind of strange, down on my knees kind of thing. And after I take the picture, I look to my side, and this woman's looking at me like, "What the frick are you taking a picture of?" And again, it kind of goes back to what I was saying, getting into the flow and not worrying about what people are thinking about, what you're doing, and why, geez. The other thing is, here's another. I'm kind of jumping around here. This is a tide pool in Japan, with seaweed, and I looked at the rocks, and all the rocks in the tide pool are all white, and the seaweed created this negative space. And I thought, oh, how beautiful is that? And nature, I love nature, just everything about it. And that's why I have kind of my own uh, uh, gallery on my website just dedicated to nature. But anyhow, there's so much to be learned, and and you can see things in nature like this in the tide pool. And if you look, and if you have to kind of look beyond all the color, and coming back to what I was saying about the bones of the image. And in this case, it would be the seaweed mixed with the rocks. Those are kind of, as I would refer to, as bones. And and I think once you tune your mind to see that way, all of a sudden we see things that we normally just don't see. Here are a couple. There's some couple of images that I took when walking across the Golden Gate Bridge, and again, these are in camera, multiple. But I thought that the towers in between, um, where they have the cables, where the cables are attached to, created these interesting shapes with the wires and all the rivets going up to it. And so I did a series again back. I can't stress this enough, guys and gals, do series of images. You can thank me later. And because what one shot you'll take and you'll think, oh, that's a great shot, and then you get back on and you go to process, is garbage. But other shots where you didn't think that were that great are actually interesting, because you just don't know how you're going to process it in the end. Like this, okay, this is kind of a silly shot. This is where I'd taken an image and I had reduced it so much that all you have is black and white. Well, this, I don't know if you can see this, but it's a deer. And this deer is a famous sculpture that's in Tokyo. And if on the website, I have it so you can click and you can see the guy actually move. This guy right here, he moves, like if you click, he moves from forward to backwards. But you just, I don't know. Abstraction is like that. Like, for instance, this image, I love this image, which as a street photograph, I saw this kind of abstract art on the street. And I'm like, okay, well, let's take a picture of the abstract art. And then there was some other like buildings and houses. And so I exposed on top of that. It's kind of interesting. Now, some people might argue that that's like kind of stealing because you're just kind of taking somebody else's art and taking a picture of it. Well, I don't know. Maybe it's kind of a remix, if you will. But like this is a famous church in Iceland. It's all black, and I took pictures. You can see the church right here. This is the entire church with the windows. But I don't know. For me, I think that there's always multiple ways of seeing something, and it doesn't always have to be the atypical shot that everyone kind of gravitates to. And same thing applies. A lot of people that are into Louis Kahn's architecture and stuff that say this is an abomination of the architecture, that you're mixing it up and making it into something that it's not. But who says that it has to be exactly the way you see it? And I think that's the whole purpose about abstract photography, is that it's up to you to interpret it. It's like impressionism. It's like when people see something and then they make a painting of it, and that's just the way they see it. And also, like this image, these are a series of branches that I shot through these branches, and it kind of goes back to that notan where you are balancing with light and dark. And part of it, I look at him like it just seems a little bit chaotic, but there is some sort of balance to it. There is line and things are sectioned off into little corners, and there's organic forms mixed with things that are not as organic. But it's all organic. It's all in the forest. And so again, back to what I was saying before about being in the present moment and allowing yourself to kind of almost go into another dimension and with your camera and try and capture that feeling that you're having. And here's another picture of that Fushimi Inari Tasha in Kyoto. And this is more literal because you can actually see the stairs going up to the Shinto gate. So it's a little bit more literal. And I think, that's the other thing about abstract photography, is that sometimes people really don't know how to process it. They look at it and they're like, I don't know what that is. I don't like it. I don't know what it is. So, and that's okay. And the abstract art doesn't always have to be definable. It can be strange. It can be like this one. This image is a little bit more literal because these people are walking through the gates. You can clearly see that it's a person, so there's more connection to it. But I'm curious what people think about black and white as opposed to color, and how much of their work is done in color as opposed to black and white. And I I struggle with that myself because I want to create photos that are more marketable, if you will, but at the same time, that my inner creative eye still wants to kind of please itself, and a lot of that comes from black and white. And I truly believe that black and white leaves the realm of reality just because we don't see in color. I mean, we don't see in black and white, and so I find that is intriguing to me, and it's the only time, and that's why I like infrared. And maybe I should kind of mosey over to the infrared section, because infrared kind of takes us into a realm where we're not, this is an old film image, because normally we don't see leaves in white, and this is kind of a dreamy, image, because it's just not the way we're used to seeing things. And here is a long exposure where I'd actually gone and walked in. You can see my silhouette and this Japanese pagoda in the background, but this is all infrared. And again, back to that, in the first half where I was talking about slow light, I love long exposures, and I always travel with ND filters, and usually a 10-stop ND, and an infrared R72 filter, and some sort of tripod. But to be honest, I just don't have a lot of time to set the tripod up, and usually I'm racing after my wife on the trail or something like that. But when I do have time, I do set that up. Oh, here's all sorts of pictures. Here's an abstract shot, self-portrait of infrared. And I'm bringing infrared up because I think infrared can be a valuable tool, and if you haven't experimented with it, I can't recommend it enough. It's so fun. You get these results that are unexpected, and I would suggest F8, at least F8, because focusing in infrared can be difficult. I mean, maybe a lot of people say, "Well, Chris, that's not focused," but sometimes focus, is not super important. Here it is, but you get the sense of movement because the clouds are moving, and I love mixing things that are moving there with things that are stationary. And what I mean by that, like for instance, let's see, I think back in this shot, the water becomes like smooth and silky. You get this with ND filters when you shoot, and with ND filters you don't necessarily have to turn it into black and white, but like with infrared, it's this crazy colors, and you really have to be uh, technically knowledgeable of how to make a color infrared image. I'm not that good at it, so I tend to convert most of my stuff. Like here's an example of color infrared. It's just I don't I to me that's not as pleasing as black and white. But I've seen where people like turn the pinks into blues and stuff like that. So, but you can get like here. This is a picture of this elephant. Obviously, the elephant is moving, and the landscape behind it is stationary. So, I've said this before with Pinhole, too, and I've given talks about that before. Is that with Pinhole, it's very, I think it's more interesting to mix things that are moving with things that are stationary. It just adds a sense of motion and life to it that wouldn't be there if you didn't have it. Um, but anyways, enough about that. What else? Contrast. I maybe I already talked about this, but the eye loves contrast, and so I try and add. Now, it's easy to go overboard with contrast, but I find that the more contrast of time, the better. And a lot of times I see people's photos, they just lack contrast. They're flat, and I think with abstract, it's just even more important for that. And I don't know. For me, I I love fast prime lenses, and I'm going to click on this image or this gallery because a lot of these images are shot with fast prime lenses because it gives this kind of like dreamy, painterly effect. And if you haven't played with fast primes, 2.8 and below, I would recommend it. It's a lot of fun. Again, here's an example of high contrast. And this is not abstract, but I find that sometimes images don't have to have grayscale in it. They can be silhouettes and still be interesting, almost like some sort of graphic. And it kind of takes me back to my design phase of my life. Anyhow, I feel like I'm rambling. Let's see what else are on my notes. Uh, let's see. Oh, let's see. Um, I don't know, Stephen. Maybe if people have some questions, maybe I can answer some of those, or if they want to see certain things, I'm more than happy to talk about that. Um,
There are no questions that I'm seeing. Summer Houston says, great talk and enjoying it.
okay, great.
And yeah, so far you're good.
All right. Well, I'll just keep cruising. Um, I I got into vintage cameras, and I have a whole collection of vintage cameras. And sometimes these cameras can give us these effects that you can't get digitally, that are all done. Like here's, you get these light leaks and blurs and stuff. This is all done in camera, and these are all, you can see where the light leaked onto it. So I think you can get some nice effects, and sometimes they come out turning abstract. Obviously these aren't abstract photos. This one is. I mean, this is taken with an old Ansco Panda camera, which is a 620 film camera. It's a small Bakelite camera that takes 620 film that I had to respool onto a 120 roll. But the reason why I'm bringing up vintage cameras is that sometimes you can buy these things for close to nothing at garage sales and things, and they can be really fun to experiment with, and you get some kind of unique. Like for instance, the rocket camera. I have 3 of these cameras because I love the effect they give. Let's see, like this is a rocket camera photo. You can't really tell from this image, but it has this kind of like sheet, like looks like it's photographed onto a like a sheet, and that's done from the camera because the camera has a metal sleeve in it. Here's another Holga image that has gone awry, and the film isn't perfectly aligned onto the back of the plate. But I think it gives interesting effects. So, anyways, I'm going to go back to the experimental or abstract stuff, and maybe something that I see in here will strike some conversation here. Okay, so like this image, I for a while I toyed around with I touched on this a little briefly earlier about shooting through um, um, lenses and glasses and things like that. So I made a homemade lens um, and put it onto my 5D, and the images were clearly they weren't that in focus, but that was part of the allure. Let's see if I can find another one. I know I have one of my daughter in here. Maybe I already showed it. Here's another homemade lens, but interesting. Not your. A part of the allure of it is that it isn't in focus, and that light is kind of bounces around on the lens. Um, I love reflections. And reflections, you'll see a lot of reflections in I also see a typo in there. um, but I love reflections in water. I love reflections in windows and things like that. You'll see a lot of that in my street photography. Um, and also I will play with taking stuff in Photoshop and inserting it into other things. Like this was a shoot that I did for this musician, and I wanted to kind of give it a little edgy feel. So this is just a film border that I had. Here's some more water that and the other thing I touched on this before with underwater photography is that when you have a camera that can go in the water, water gives these amazing kind of abstract effects and things like this by light hitting the water and bouncing off the lens, and so that's another thing I would suggest is playing around with underwater cameras, and you can get those cheap sometimes. What I've done is I just take a pocket camera and I put it in a housing. The housings can get expensive, but it's like water. Here's an abstract photo of some water. I mean, like I said before about textures, it's hard to get excited about textures, but I mean, it's just water bubbles. But um, let's see what else. What else could we got here? Oh yeah, there was a the these are this is an interesting series. So there was this is a a sculpture in Tokyo that's made with mirrors, and it has color in it. So this image um, has a lot of color in it, and I think the color was distracting. So I removed the color, and back to kind of what I was saying before about the bones of it. Images that, and again, it has to have some sort of balance to it, harmony. There were a lot of shots from this series that I didn't end up using. Um, but let's see, what else can we? Let's see here. Um, oh, here we go. Clouds. Now, it's a bit cliche, um, but I saw these clouds outside of the plane window, and I took a picture of it. And when I saw it in color, I said, "Well, it's interesting. I think the balance of it." But it wasn't interesting enough, so I inverted it, and I thought to myself, "Well, now it's a completely different image. It doesn't even. It still kind of looks like clouds, but it's different. It almost looks like a lunar landscape or something like that." And I think as artists, uh, and I say artists because a lot of times people don't call photographers artists, but we truly are. Um, Sometimes when you take a picture, you can when it, I never really realized this until I really started processing in Lightroom and Photoshop more. But a lot of the artistry comes in the processing and 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 how you process it. And I think a weak image can be strengthened by the how we process it, and I think a strong image can be ruined by how you process it. So uh, this image is an example of processing, and and I think it's okay sometimes to invert things. Now these images aren't inverted, but they appear inverted because of how I was using the processing. It looks a little bit out of focus, but oh, here's that image of my daughter with the homemade lens that I was telling you about. But I love it. It's just, and I love her hand and how how it looks, and I don't know. Anyways, I did a series in Arches where I saw the textures on the rocks and the negative spaces of the there's like sandstone cliffs, and I thought to myself, what if you simplified this and took out all the color and turned it into more of a abstract image. And this, excuse me, this is a double exposure, so it's two exposures. But um, I think that interesting, you can do if you have interesting shapes to start with. Here's another example in Arches. This is a double exposure as well, but I love this image. And these rocks had all these really interesting shapes and textures. And I thought, well, what if you kind of blended those two of the textures together, and and in color, it didn't look as compelling because the colors look kind of strange. But once I removed the color from it, it took on a whole new feel to it. So I love that image. Um, let's see. Here's another one. If this one's Arches as well. Stephen, let's see if I had. I'm going to go into Lightroom again. Let's see if I can find. Let's see. There we go. Can you still see my screen and everything?
I see all the little blue folders there.
Okay, perfect. Let's see if I can find. Let's see. Let's turn that off. Let's see if I can find Arches Moab. Here we go. I'll go into here. Behind the scenes. And you can see the way I'm naming stuff. That's maybe I should pause there for a second. I don't know how many people name things or post things online. Let's see. I want to find it an image. Going behind the scenes here. I'm trying to find that image where I played with it. And you can see here where I'm kind of playing with negative space. That's just a one image. but I want to find that image that I just showed you. Ah, here we go. Here's an image. So here. Oops. Let's see if I can make a double of it, and let's reset it so you can see how it looks before I processed it. Okay, so that's how it is before I processed it. And if you compare it to the black and white image, maybe that's a different image there. Oh, hold on here. Let's use this image. This, hopefully I'm not boring people here. Okay, so here we go. Let's reset this one. There we go. So I look at that and kind of makes me boring. Now, if I was to go in and, process it a little bit, okay, yeah, it's, I don't know. I guess you could, but when I see it like this, to me, that's more dynamic, more striking when it's just black and white. And you can see look at my settings. I mean, -2 stops, 100% contrast. I mean, I'm going crazy over here. This is just like, I would never do this type of processing to a portrait, like, ever. But I think when it comes to abstract stuff, really, I think a lot of the rules go out the window. I mean, in the end, it's how it looks to you. And I wouldn't be afraid to go extreme with the sliders. And so the other thing, what I'll do is I'll output this as a JPEG, and then go into Photoshop, and then I'll take a look at the curve again and see how it looks, and make my final adjustments there. And the other thing I was going to talk about, and maybe this is not applicable to the presentation, but how you put the metadata in the file. Now, I think that's super important if you're putting it online. Now, personally, all my photos I put in online on my website. People can look at how what my camera settings are. I don't strip any of that out. And I've had people tell me in the past, they say, Chris, I really appreciate that, because I go into your file and I can see, what your ISO is and what your f-stop, and so as photographers, a lot of times we'll remove that. But I'm not afraid to share creative processes. And anyways, what I was going to say is that metadata and how you how you name your file, and here words. I guess words. Let's just go in here. Arches National Park. Let's see. Nope, that's not. Let's see if I can go in here. I'll open this up. Let's see. Go into Command Option Shift. Here we go. So I go in and I put in all this information, and I name all the stuff, abstract, experiment, all the stuff. I go into the IPTC. I put in all that information in there. That way Google knows that this image belongs to you. I would suggest, if you're posting anything online, that you do that for yourself. It's just good practice. Make sure you put your author name. I've had people steal my photos, and then I go in and I say, hey, look, you're using my photo. And they're like, how did you find it? I said, well, you didn't even bother to strip out the metadata. So I would suggest, if you're going to put stuff online, put your metadata in. And obviously this image never made it online, but okay. Here's an interesting image. I'm sorry if I'm popping around a lot here, but this is glacial ice. And this is the Mendenhall Glacier in Alaska. And I remember when I saw this image, or saw this ice, I said, wow, that's fascinating. And I remember just saying earlier about nature, there's so many wonderful things in nature to photograph. And this is an example of that. And again, I'm going to invert this so you can see what I mean about balance. Now, this one seems like there's more white than there is black, but I think it's ice, so that's okay. But I also will go in, and this curve looks pretty like it's been worked a lot, but I will use these eyedroppers, and I'll drop it in on black, and I'll take the white and I'll drop it on the white, and you can see that way I know I have white whites and black blacks. I'm telling you, the eye loves contrast. It really does. So I try and make sure that I do this to most of my photos, especially if they're black and white. And if it's a color image, let's see. I'm gonna see if I can find, like, oh, let's go into this. This is pretty low. This is a pretty low res file, but I always find that moving this over, the highlights over, and your shadows over, just a few, just pinching it in a little bit before you export it or save it, it helps a lot. And I notice if you come in and this and your highlights are there's a space in there, I always crank it over. Now again, this image has been worked and reduced, so it's not going to have a really good histogram. Anyways, that's that. Let's see what else. Let's see if I can go back into this in this Canyonlands one. Maybe there's some more stuff in here. As you can see, I take a lot of photos. Oh, here's that image that I processed. You can see the whole series of it. Like you can see where okay, here I saw the image. Like, okay, that's interesting, but maybe not, And so then I'm like, okay, well, maybe no, that's just confusing. That's just, I don't even want to look at that. I look at that, I'm like, that looks like a broom. It's not very interesting. And then I get over here. Oh, okay. Those things are starting to happen, right? And then you get over here. This is the image, the final image. I think really what it was these cross hatchings, these things, and this how it kind of comes down on this side and it comes over. It's dynamic. Whereas this image, not so dynamic. Not as, I mean, it's still a nice image, but it's not as dynamic as this. So what I was saying before, always shoot a series. Um, and if you have time, because what you think might be great could be better if you just kind of work it a little bit more. And that applies even more so with multiple exposures. Now this image, I didn't like see how these rocks kind of repeat itself. It looks like a double exposure, multiple exposure. So, I mean, a lot of people are going to say, well, Chris, that's obvious. That's a multiple exposure, but sometimes it doesn't have to be, you don't have to. Sometimes I think it's best not, like here, like this is crazy. Like it's crazy over multiple exposure. And what I've found, and I said this earlier, you're gonna have have your failures, lots of failures. Like this one's kind of interesting. And it starts to have some interesting shapes happening, and but doesn't really doing it. I mean, when I look at it, I'm like, I don't know about that. So in the end, you'll just be stuck with trying to make decisions. Like, okay, what's working, what's not working? Is that working? I don't like seeing this girl 3 times. It's just weird. I mean, I guess you can go and Photoshop her out, but and maybe it's the way you crop it. Sometimes a lot of people don't crop stuff. I'm like, that could have looked a lot better if you just cropped a certain part out, or maybe you crop, or maybe you go in and I don't know if you guys use this tool, but I use this tool quite a bit. Don't tell anyone I do, but you just go in here and okay, bye. Let's see what AI does with this. Don't tell anyone I'm using AI. Okay, well, there you go. That I don't think that's that bad. No one's going to notice that, right? So I wouldn't. I think let's talk about AI for a second. I'm not much of a person to add stuff into my photos. For example, I took a photo of a group of scientists in the courtyard, and it was a gray day. And I thought, Chris, why not just add a blue sky? So I selected the sky, and I added AI at the blue sky, and I'm like, no, that just looks fake. And some, I know this is a very highly debatable topic, but like people say, well, Chris, that's not real. I mean, what's real about that? I mean, that's obviously not real. But I think there's a difference between trying to pawn something off that's real and trying to pawn something off that you know is not real. Like clearly this is not real. But I have a problem with decepting people. I don't like it. And we live in an age of deception now, and I have a problem with that. I want to know what's real and what's not real as a viewer and as an artist. And I'm upfront with my viewers. And if I use AI or if I change something, I'm going to let them know. And I think abstract photography, uh, I don't know. Maybe it doesn't apply to the same rules because it's already been defined as abstract, so people know it's not like the way it was seen in real life. But when you're trying to pawn off a photo that's not real, maybe you've changed something in the background or whatever it is, I don't know. I don't know. That's I don't know. I have a problem with that. Anyways, I digress. Um, I'll move on. Let's see. What else can we talk about here, people? Hopefully, I'm not boring. I'm trying to. Whoa, what's happening with that? I don't know. That was not a good thing. Let's see.
You got about 10 minutes left.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm going to go back to my website here, and because I think it's easy to get lost in let's see. Whoa, hey, how do I get back there? Hold on. Let's see here. Bear with me here. Let's see, bring it up.
We got some comments here.
Yeah, bring them on.
Let's see. David Glenn says most of my photography is done using digital instruments digital, I guess, instruments that are not normally used in the photographic art. So he's using other digital tools to create some of his work. I'm assuming one of them is like 3D generation. Son Houston mentioned part of workshop Steve does, which Steve meaning me, includes a half-day Photoshop class where each tonal workflow in Adobe Camera Raw and Photoshop. So what he's talking about is the Death Valley class and the Eastern Sierra workshop classes are workshops. They're classes. They're not photo tours. They're classes designed to help you improve your composition, but we get into looking at things abstractly as well.
Yeah.
Learning to control the values rather than the colors.
Yeah.
In order to improve your colors. And I will be doing a talk, and it'll be online. I think it'll be online for the North County Photographic Society. And it's called value-based workflow, and that's going to be in 2 weeks on the 24th. So everybody, I put a link in the chat box to join our mailing list for the San Diego Photoshop Users Group. We call it SDPUG. Sign your name there, then you'll be notified of that workshop. Also, Houston mentioned about AI generated art. Is it really yours? Is it art? Is it skill or luck? With AI text prompts, and these are all questions. And he put the link for the talk that I did at the Oceanside Museum of Art that I participated in on AI. So yeah, those are some of the comments here.
It's a heated debate, isn't it? I mean,
it's here to stay.
Yeah.
You can do about it.
Yep.
The main complaint by artists is that AI is that after they do it, they as an artist don't feel a connection. Okay, here's the problem with AI overall. If you are an artist or photographer, whatever your passion is, if you have skill sets, true skill sets, you're not going to be threatened by AI in general
Right.
because you utilize AI only to help enhance what you're trying to create as an artist. You don't
Correct.
allow AI to be the thing that creates for you. For example, I like to I when I did the museum show, not well, the gallery show, at the Escondido Art Gallery. Um, I did the show was basically called AI art in essence, and I was one of many in the group show, and what I produced was something where AI inspired me, but I didn't utilize AI as an end result. So I looked at what it created. I thought, oh, I kind of like that concept, and then I go and use my skill sets to recreate what I thought I was seeing from AI. So there's that way to approach it, which I think is a better way to approach it. Just use it to give you ideas. It's like an idea calculator.
Yeah.
You just think about let it throw some ideas at you. Okay, I'll take that, and then you use your skill sets to create. The problem with AI is that people who don't have the skill sets that we as artists have, and this is where the big threat is
Right.
that they're using the AI engines to steal what you've already created. And that's basically what AI is doing. Is all AI is a database management system. It's trained on some type of database.
Right.
Um, you hear stuff about Elon Musk. He's got his own database, and every company's got their own database on how they train their AI. The AI will produce based on what trained it, what database was used to train it. So yeah, it's if you can understand it from that standpoint, then you can use AI to even enhance what you do already. But to use it when you have no skill sets and to say I'm an artist, that's where you're gonna fall short of being an artist
I
and
agree.
trouble for that.
I don't mind enhancing your photo or fixing things. I've used it in retouching. I've used it to remove people in the background that are
Oh
ruining.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I used to do that in Photoshop with the cloning tool. So I
and for that is great,
yeah, I don't have a problem with
right?
that. It's just that I don't know. Like you said, it's here to stay. I mean, I just the deception part is what bothers me.
Yeah, there's a lot of misuse right now. Trust me, I've had people show me what they did in AI, and now they're selling it. Selling
Yeah,
on, and they didn't do any of it, right?
that
AI, right?
that's
Selling T-shirts and coffee mugs,
yeah.
and yeah, it's just that's the
It is
that's
what
the
it is. Like you said, it's not going anywhere. So I think as artists, I mean, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, regardless
right,
of what AI does, and I'm going to keep. I know I still have a lot to learn. I mean, I know I showed a bunch of photos that I'm sure people didn't like, and I'm fine with that. And I think uh, we can use AI as a tool to, like you said, enhance what we've done and help us save time. Like it saved me so much time in retouching in the past. So I'm happy for that. But when I start to use it as a way to alter things the way they're not,
right,
and sell it like it is, then that's deception. And so I don't like that. And a lot of times you'll see something online and people think it's real, but then they'll say, no, that's AI. And
right,
I remember I showed a picture to someone, and it's a really nice picture that I took, and they said, that's not real, that's AI.
exactly,
And I'm like, no, that's real. I took that photo. And so and of course, this person was young, and they're growing up with AI, whereas you and I have grown up before AI. So at any rate, I mean, abstract. I bring it up because abstraction is not a true representation of reality, and my love for abstraction comes from abstract art and painting, and I feel and to be fair to abstract artists who generate art from using I think there's ways to create really wonderful things using AI as a tool. but I think people need to know that it was created by AI rather than saying, "Oh, I created this is a real picture of the beach or whatever it is." No, So that's the only problem I have with it is when it's used to deceive.
We've we've got a couple people who submitted some work, some of their websites. Let's take a look at those real quick.
Yes, great.
All right, so I will stop sharing your screen and add my screen. And so this is from Aaron Houston. I saw you submitted this in the link in the chat box.
Sweet.
And a shot of when he's on one of my Death Valley classes, a Brisky Point.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a fun piece, and he felt that going monochromatic was
good.
Yeah,
I'm not alone. I'm curious, Stephen, what's your feelings about color versus black and white, and why do you think people are less?
I was trained on black and white. When I went to photography, when I went through the photography program, we were not allowed to do color at all.
Yeah.
It was all black and white until your last year before getting your certificate, or last semester before getting your certificate. You were even allowed to touch color. So I learned how to really work black and white very well. And I think it's critically important. And I will be talking about that in my talk in 2 weeks for the North County Photograph Society.
Well, like this image, Stephen, I don't mean to interrupt, but this has a little bit of color in it, which I'm okay with. And I've done this almost like a sepia, or maybe I'm not seeing it.
Yeah, it's a sepia, which is not unlike traditional photographs, because if you're using a sepia toner, or if you're using a selenium-based toner on your photographic prints to help preserve the prints for longevity purposes, they all take on a slight little bit of a color variation. But in essence, this can be considered a monochromatic image. I like it very much. I have other criticisms about it, which I'll address with Aaron afterwards. But yeah, I try to train the students to start to produce something that is other than trying to create a snapshot, right? We want to create what we see and represent what we see. And I try to train them to represent what's in their heart, their feelings.
Yeah.
And that often means, narrowing down your vision, which is kind of some of the basics in photography is not taking the whole thing. This Will just gave me an Instagram link. Let me go grab that.
Yeah,
and
check it out. This is good fun. I like this.
Yeah, anybody wants to share something, this is your time to shine.
Definitely.
Don't be shy. It's like when you early in your talk, you talked about you took a sunset shot.
Yeah.
And your friend critiqued it.
Yeah.
And you were crushed.
Yeah.
That's common. That's common to this day. I'll get photographers whose work is clearly introductory level, and when I share with them how to improve it, they're crushed because they thought it was great.
Yeah.
And this is one of the problems with social media overall, is that so many people think they're great because they've got 10,000 friends on Facebook that tell them they're great.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But they've never showed their work to a true professional. They don't go to art galleries or photographic galleries to see true, masterfully produced for photographic works. I teach on a college level, and I also teach professionally, independently. And one of the things I'm always on my students about is about going to the photography museums and seeing good work, seeing good photographic work.
There's so much too. I mean,
oh, there's so much. Oh yeah, there's a lot to learn. Now here's one that he's sharing, and I think he's sharing this one because you were talking about the contrast, the black and white system.
Yeah.
And thank you so much, Will, for sharing that. There's another, like, we're not here to critique these images, but we're just
No,
here to
no,
share.
just check them out.
And Aaron also sent this one. He says, I thought he said in his comments that it was part of his abstract series, but I don't consider this abstract.
Mm-mm.
This is definitely very literal. You can tell, you can make out what it is, what the subject is. But here is Staff Sergeant William Griffin. He shared his website, and I'm just looking at some of the images. So he's focused on environmental,
Yeah,
documenting the documentary photography,
it's good.
which is, yeah, it's good. It looks like it's
That
got a
stuff,
good.
that stuff pays the bills.
Yeah, yes, it does. Absolutely does. But even photographers who use this commercially, um, they have a fine art side too,
Yeah,
and a different portfolio for that. So, William, maybe you want to consider another separate website that might show more of your creative, artistic side as
definitely.
opposed to a commercial. This is clearly commercial and important because you got to pay those bills.
God, yeah.
I like to eat.
Because abstract's not paying the bills.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I can share some things. I say, anybody else share anything in here? A link? No, I don't see anything. Chris Dawson makes a comment. The art of photography on Meetup has some great groups. Okay, good. I will definitely check those out. Um, I'll share some things
That's true.
on.
Only way to grow is to take critiques constructively. That's true.
Oh, it's hard with artists. Remember, this is the age of social media.
Yeah.
And social media, people don't want real critiques. They want you to applaud them for the hard work that they put into something. And
Yeah.
because you put in a lot of hard work does not necessarily mean you produce great stuff.
Yeah.
Is because it's a skill, it's a craft,
Yeah.
and you have to be educated in that. This is my website here. Let me go to the just the front page. Okay, and this is some of the stuff that I do. So I do have some things.
Ooh,
Um, I should have a photography section.
nice.
And if I go to showcase and photographic art, is it photographic art or photography? Maybe it's just the photographic art. I think that's the photography section. And I'll share with you what could be considered abstract. All right. So this one was just accepted in a group show online and included in a book. Not abstract, in my opinion, but it does cut out all the noise and
Yeah.
focus and brings to focus the feeling and the spirit of the scene.
Yeah. I love water when it's slowed down and smooth.
Yeah, I enjoy it. I enjoy it a lot. Let me see. Let me get out of here. I want to go back to the
Did you use an
background.
ND filter with that?
I did not. What I did, and I'll show you the rest of these. What I did, and this is not my favorite. Let me show you one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite ones. What I did was this is my Yosemite masterclass, and we went to Angels Falls, and we waited till it got dark. We
Ah,
went late in the afternoon, and I got there when the sun was just about going down, still lit, so we can scope out the place. And as the sun starts to go down, I put on my polarizer filter,
ah,
and I will slow down that shutter speed to 30 seconds or more
okay.
to get that nice little smooth, creamy look
Yeah,
with the
yeah.
water.
You can never go wrong with clouds.
Here is, if I can get out of this stupid thing here. Here's one that is a little bit more abstract.
Yeah.
Simplicity.
Yeah, there's something to be said about that, right? I mean, a lot of my stuff is full of texture and stuff, but sometimes it's nice just to be simple. And I think simple images, I think, may sell better than ones that are like really busy.
And even the busy ones could work. You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how hotels will buy those up.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. I've got. They're not here in my gallery, but I do have it. I'll show you. I'll share one little section, and then we'll. And I have it in my promotional section here.
Looks like you have a robust website there, Stephen.
Oh yeah, it's busy.
No, I meant that as a compliment. I can't say it enough to people out there. A website is so important to get your work out there, to have it being seen. It gives you a place to deposit it, and otherwise you're just going to be putting it on somebody else's website.
Right. Here, let's go to Bridge here real quick,
Oh, I
and
love
I'll show you. I'll show you these correctly. Okay, let's bring that on up, and I don't want those photos. I want to go over here to get out of here and go over to.
I love Bridge. It's great.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Everybody should be using Bridge to stay organized and to work
Absolutely.
with their stuff here. So promotional images. So I tell you, we'll go to the Eastern Sierra workshop, and there were some interesting things there to share with you. Okay.
Oh yeah. Oh, I love that. Nice. That's
All right.
great.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
I love simplicity. You
Yeah.
know, and this whole giant hillside was nothing but these fiery, glowing colors.
Is that an aspen tree? What is that?
Yes, I believe that's an aspen tree.
Yeah.
Aspen trees in there, I guess.
Yeah.
Grow together.
Trees.
And I've got another. Here's I don't really know if I consider that an abstract, but that's not really abstract.
Yeah. Yeah. Sounds are cool and color. See, you got a lot of color um, in your portfolio here, and I tend to.
And this also is I have black and white too. I'll share the black and white real quick.
I like that the Dutch you added to that. That actually makes it more unique, I think. When it's angled.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, this is not a drone. This is taken with my 50 to 500 millimeter Sigma lens,
Nice.
and we will be doing the Eastern Sierra workshop again this October 7th. And now that I have purchased a medium format digital camera,
Oh wow.
um, I'm going to have a blast. See, this is taken with the Canon 5D Mark II.
Mm.
And it's a panoramic. It's stitched together so I can get the larger image size. But
How many images?
I don't remember.
3 or 4, or is it more than that?
I don't remember. And let me check. Let's go over to Death Valley.
Because image stacking is interesting.
Oh yeah. Okay, so I'll just to share some of the black and whites.
So I don't feel so bad.
No, black and white is my passion. So here is the shot. Let me show you the shot in color first. Let me go find it. Where are you?
I know. Welcome to my world.
Where are you?
No pressure, Steve.
Exactly. Well, here's something. This could be considered kind of abstract.
Yeah, that's good. Nice.
That's
good.
And then another version of it.
So that'd make good for good banner.
Yeah, this might be a nice banner.
Mm-hmm.
And then I've got this here.
Ooh, that's nice. Oh, I like that. That's really nice. I like the texture. Can you zoom in on that a little bit?
I can.
Oh yeah, look at that texture. I love that. That's really nice. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a lover of black and white.
There's more drama in black and white, but you have to master the craft.
Yeah,
You just can't throw your stuff in the black and white and expect to get the effect. You have to know how to work it.
I agree.
You have to learn how to identify what the primary point of focus truly is, and how to mute down everything else so that primary point of focus speaks out.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, that I left that highlight on that edge, on those edges. It's nice.
Yeah,
And the
but
texture gives it nice. I don't know. It's
and
like,
this is a JPEG file, so
yeah.
I'm losing a little bit of detail there, but the TIFF file is lots of detail there.
You save your files as TIFF?
Everything,
Uh,
always save everything. I don't delete anything.
yeah,
Everybody's in the habit of deleting stuff. I don't delete anything.
yeah.
Here's one that was just
Ooh, that's nice. Yeah. Multiple.
so fun stuff.
Yeah, I like it.
So okay, I think we're done. We're a little bit past time.
That's all right. You like you said, the time will go fast. I was part of a podcast years ago, Pinhole, and the hour went by faster than I knew. It was crazy.
Oh yeah,
And when you told me 3 hours, I told my wife, I said, "What am I going to say for 3 hours?" She's like, "Oh, I think you'll figure it out." But
yeah.
Steve, thank you so much for having me, and thanks to all your guests for logging in. I don't know if they're still here, if they went out for lunch or not, but
They're all going for. They started going for lunch about 12 noon.
yeah, I don't blame them.
When I cut her out of here, this is a Saturday. We're gonna go play,
Exactly. Chris is like roaring us already.
which is exactly what I'm gonna go do. I'm gonna go bike riding afterwards. So
Yeah, you should. Well, Stephen, thanks so much. And how do if I wanted to see the recording, are you going to send me a link?
you're on the mailing list now. You should be on the. I'll make sure you're on the mailing list.
Perfect. Hopefully, I gave out some information that was interesting. And
Oh yeah, I think everybody enjoyed it. Thank you so much for sharing, and we're definitely gonna have you back.
awesome. And I'm gonna, now that I know you guys are out there, I'm gonna drop into some of your. How do I keep in? Oh, because you got a mailing list, right?
Again, you wanna, yeah. Well, let me jump off of Twitch, and everybody, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I'm gonna go ahead and close down Twitch. I'm gonna end the stream now.